we feel as unit owners or anybody, we feel we're disrespected. And guess what? You got to treat me better because I demand you treat me better. I demand you treat me with respect. I'm going to demand you treat me like I am somebody, like I belong, like I'm special. And everybody feels that way. And it's creating these problems because as a board of directors, our job is to enforce the documents, right? To collect assessments, to maintain a common area. That's our job. But guess what happens, though? In order to do that, we can't make everybody happy. And when we don't make them happy, guess what? Instead of them taking responsibility and saying, I'm sorry, you're right. I do need to look at the rules and obey them. I should pay my assessments on time. We go, what right do you have to pass assessments anyway? Who do you think you are? How dare you do this to me? And that's where the problem comes into play.
HOA Insights, common sense for common areas, exists to help all 2 million volunteer board members nationwide have the right information at the right time to make the right decisions for their future. This podcast is sponsored by 4 companies that care about board members: Association Insights and Marketplace, Association Reserves, Community Financials, and Kevin Davis Insurance Services. You'll find links to their websites and social media in the show notes.
Hi, I'm Robert Nordlund of Association Reserves.
Hi, I'm Kevin Davis of Kevin Davis Insurance Services, and this is HOA Insights, where we promote common sense
for common areas. Well, welcome to episode number 32, where we'll be speaking with insurance expert and regular co-host Kevin Davis on the topic of reputational damage. It's real, and board members are being sued for it, so you need to know what's going on in order to minimize your exposure. And if you haven't had a chance to listen, I want to encourage everyone to check out our last episode, number 31, which was a reserve study Q&A, getting you prepared for budget discussions. And if you missed any other prior episodes, take a moment after listening today to subscribe to this podcast on any of the most popular podcast platforms. You can also listen directly from our podcast website, www.hoainsights.org, or watch on our YouTube channel. And if you have a hot topic, a crazy story, or a question you'd like us to address, you can contact us at 805-203-3130 or email us at podcast@reservestudy.com. So, Kevin, I think we can start today's program with one of those. This one, audience question from Janet in Oakland, California. And Janet writes, we have one troublemaker homeowner, and because of that, we walk on eggshells around her, treating her as nicely as possible. Is this okay favoritism?
Wow. You know, this is a problem. We are talking about reputational damages, and it's such a big problem today that the boards are walked around on eggshells. They're afraid. They're afraid they're going to be sued because they're bullying. They're afraid they're going to be sued because they're harassing or they're discriminating or they wrote something they shouldn't have wrote or said something they shouldn't have said. And guess what? We as homeowners who live there, we just want to yell and scream. We want to blame. We want to criticize. We don't want, it's not like the old days. You know, can you imagine if somebody walked to you 20 years ago and said, Robert, listen, you know, you have some problem. You're not taking your trash out, or you're parking visitors parking way too long, or, you know, you're using the pool at the wrong pool hours, right? We'd be ashamed, right? We'd be, oh, I'm sorry. We say, oh man, I can't believe it. Now, what do we do?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I think, oh boy, we could go political on this. There was that one candidate for president of the United States who was caught on a boat called Monkey Business. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He had a woman on his lap, and he left the election process. There was shame.
Yep.
And maybe it's the rise of bullying in our society where people want to stand up for the way they did it and not accept their own mistakes. But boy, yeah, we're getting more and more confrontation, which is exactly in your line of work, confrontations.
And that's what it is. And we demand justice, though. I mean, it's not so much that we're bullying. We feel we're being disrespected. We feel as unit owners or anybody, we feel we're disrespected. And guess what? You got to treat me better because I demand you treat me better. I demand you treat me with respect. I'm going to demand you treat me like I am somebody, like I belong, like I'm special. And everybody feels that way. And it's creating these problems because as a board of directors, our job is to enforce the documents, right? to collect assessments, to maintain a common area. That's our job. But guess what happens, though? In order to do that, we can't make everybody happy. And when we don't make them happy, guess what? Instead of them taking responsibility and saying, I'm sorry, you're right, I do need to look at the rules and obey them a little. I should pay my assessments on time. We go, what right do you have to pass assessments anyway? Who do you think you are? How dare you do this to me? And that's where the problem comes into play.
Okay, so we've got challenges. We've got people that maybe are bolder than they used to be. We've got people who are more
angrier. No, let me use the word angrier. Angry because we get upset about things that we never got that upset about before. And that's the issue. We just feel like we don't feel the way we once felt. We don't feel that sense of we feel entitled. We feel that it's entitlement, that we're entitled to be able to do what we want to in our own house. Who are you? This is a homeowner association, even a condo. Who are you to tell me I can't do these things? And as a result, it creates this reputational damage. And at first, I should define what it is, because that's the important thing. When we talk about reputational damage, it's a loss that impacts your standing in the community, okay, and your relationship with others. So when you hear that, that's so many communities out there. Can you imagine that one person who wrote that question for you? They said they had one person in the community. I saw that first question, only one person in the community?
Yeah. Okay. I think we've talked about that before. It's hopefully single-digit percentage points of people in the association that maybe are not good living in close quarters with other people. But let's talk about walking on eggshells. There is perhaps a lot of that going on. Is it okay to be especially careful around some people? Is it wise to be especially careful?
You know what? That's one of the answers. It's not so much to be ashamed or to walk around like fearful, but you have to be smart enough to know, is this the hill you're going to die on? Is this the person that's going to drive you to the point where you're going to overreact? Because the key thing as a board member or as a manager is not to overreact. Because when we overreact, guess what? We get drawn into it, and then we get stuck in the mud. They always say, don't fight with dogs, or you get the fleas, or something like that. It's a saying like that. Stay above the fray. Now, this is fairly new what's happening, and what I want to talk about is why today. What's happening today? And the number one thing that really has changed all this is the internet. We're able to express ourselves in ways that makes us feel, vindicated. Anger, when we have anger, it makes us feel that we've been abused, we've been, mistreated. And so that's what the internet allows us to do. Put anything in there we want to put in there, and blame and criticize and just yell and scream all we want to. That's been the number one thing that's happened over the past 10 to 15 years. But one more thing that happened recently over the past 3 years is COVID. Because now with COVID, guess what we're doing now at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? I'm home, right? I'm home talking to you. My landscape guy, he comes by. He came by about an hour ago, and I'm like, I hope he gets done. I hope he missed spots. I'm looking at this tree out there, and I'm like, oh man, And so all of a sudden, you start to feel entitled, like, how dare him not do certain things? And I start laughing automatically because I'm about to do this talk. At the same time, I'm feeling like frustrated with my landscape guy, and all he does is, just doing his job. So that's our world we're living in today.
When you were talking about this topic, I was thinking spoken words, as in board meetings, as in walking across and seeing someone in the common areas, or while you're walking your dog or getting your mail or that kind of thing. And now I'm thinking email, because I got an email from a friend yesterday that was mentioning a mutual acquaintance, and they were bashing that person. And I was thinking, number one, I share your feelings, but I would never write them down. And is that what you're talking about? The written word in addition to?
It is such a problem because, again, when you talk about we're talking about libel and slander here. Slander, I'm yelling at you, Robert, because I don't think you did a good job. I'm thinking you're incompetent and everything like that. So I'm yelling at you. But boy, can you imagine once I put that thing in writing and it goes and stays forever. And that's the problem. And that's where the lawsuits come from both angles, libel and slander. But if you put something in writing, all of a sudden that lasts forever. It goes all throughout the community. It can go in any, you put it in your Facebook page, it goes to everybody else's Facebook page. You're talking about something that's really is a problem. The internet is a problem.
I'm thinking that would make a great, what do we say, evidence? Let me submit this to the court, document number 5. And it was like, oh, gee, that's exhibit. That's it. Don't put things in writing. Well, before this, we were talking about, reputational damage is a big thing for you. It's a new topic to me, so it's great that you can explain it. So we're talking about civility. We want to in this podcast encourage community. And a lot of people, I think, have lost a little bit of their social graces when we started living more at home, and we lost a little bit of our, what do we call them, soft skills, where you're just polite. Hello, how are you doing? The ability to make small talk and just smile and just a cocktail hour conversation, just pleasant, meaningless, but just the social graces that move things forward. So with a lacking of those things, is that kind of what we're talking about, where people are just a little more abrasive, a little more, as you say, angry about things?
Yeah, but it makes it worse is that the people who are in charge, the board, has to learn that they don't have to be that person. They don't have to go in that area with them. They don't have to get to a point where they are going back and forth. In other words, if you're a board member, if I'm a board member and I'm going after you, Robert, because you didn't pay your assessments in a timely manner, okay? Now all of a sudden you call me, every name in the book that I'm incompetent, I stole the money, what are you doing to money anyway? You don't have the right to do the money, all those things, okay? Now I can yell back at you and say, well, listen, if you weren't a deadbeat yourself, or you would have paid your things in a timely manner, guess what wouldn't have it? I mean, that's what happens, right?
Yeah. Okay. Is the key engaging? Because I remember that's what my mom told me. Don't engage. Don't yell back. Is that one of the basic principles?
But this is the key problem, though, because there's a line. There's a line between First Amendment right. Okay, we got a First Amendment right to criticize and blame and tell the board of directors they're not operating in an appropriate manner. You're not collecting assessments properly based on the information I'm seeing. You're not maintaining the common area. You're not doing this. I'm criticizing it. Okay. However, here comes the problem. When I put something in there, I say you committed a crime. Not only are you not collecting assessments properly, but you took that money. Guess what you did with that money? You paid kickback off the roofer. Instead of him taking care of my roof, you take care of your roof first. I know you're getting kickback. Whoop, that's wrong. You can't say somebody has an infectious disease. You can't say, not only the reason why I can't come to your room anymore, what they're saying he has COVID. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't talk about somebody's professionalism. You can't attack their professionalism, their competency. Okay. And, and one thing is sexual conduct. You can't blame anyone. You can't say he's sleeping with his neighbor, he's sleeping with the landscaper, he's sleeping. And we see all these things all the time. It always goes to those areas when we're battling. If I go back to you and say, you haven't paid your assessments in a timely manner, Robert, and you say, well, listen, I tried to pay them, but you don't have the software enabled to me to get it done right. I said, no, we've done it for a year and year. We've been doing this system. Yeah, but I guess your system sucks, you suck, and all of a sudden you go down there, and then I get upset with you and say, well, you're a deadbeat. You haven't paid your money in years, and guess what? Your marriage, and again, we go down this, and once we cross that line, guess what? Now we have damages. We have reputational damages because now I want retribution. You can't, certain things you can't say. There's a line you can't cross. I can be critical of you as a person who is responsible for my board to take care of my community. Okay. But boy, when I take it to those other areas, then all of a sudden, now you're talking about, and from an insurance point of view, I'm talking about the millions of dollars of loss. When I start accusing you of crime or accusing you of being incompetent or having some kind of disease, or you're cheating on your wife, with the person in the, And we see, and listen, the people who listen to this right now will have heard all those situations, And I say, if you're serving the board, those 4 things got to happen because we always going to go into the mud and we got to go into that dirt.
Hey, Kevin, I got to tell you, to hear your animated stories, to hear what you're talking about makes me think I chose the wrong profession, because dealing with reserve studies, we're looking at buildings.
Yes.
And we're not having one building sleeping with a neighbor building or accusing another building of getting too close to the trees and therefore damaging the roof. It's got to be fascinating, the stories you see. I'm missing out on those. Anyway, hey, let's take a quick break for a message from our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
Is your HOA or condo self-managed and you don't want to work as hard volunteering? Are you full managed and looking to save money? Or are you looking to split the accounting from a manager's role for better service? Let Community Financials handle the monthly accounting for you. We collect dues, pay bills, produce financial reports, include portals, and help with other support services, all while providing awesome service. We'd love the opportunity to help you make your community accounting stress-free with our industry-leading systems and expert team. Visit our website, communityfinancials.com, to learn more.
Well, during the break, Kevin and I were speaking about how in my world, I'm dealing with infrastructure, and in his world, he's dealing with people. And that just brings so many issues into play. So, Kevin, why don't you pick it up from there and tell me about the people interactions.
People are unpredictable. That's the thing. And we're more unpredictable where we live than where we do at work. When we go to work, we go to work for one. We're there to make money, and we're there for certain things. When we at home, we have this emotional attachment to our home. So when people tell us we can do what we can't do, we have a reaction. And again, the reaction today is different than the reaction 20 years ago, where we felt shame and embarrassment and humiliation. We don't feel those things anymore. Now we feel vindication. We want to show them that you don't have the right to do it. I'm a human being. I demand respect. I'm entitled to respect. So as a result, guess what we're going to do? We're going to go toe-to-toe now. I'm going to call you some names. You're going to call me some names. And one of us going to cross that line. And then all of a sudden, that's where the lawsuits come into play. And when those lawsuits come into play, it's based on 2 things that are really important. Were you harmed? And was it true or not? Okay? Those are the key things.
Wait. Say that again.
Were you harmed?
Were harmed?
And was it true or not? Truth is the key. If I say that you're incompetent, board of directors, okay, because, you took the assessments and you gave it to the landscaper and he's gone, okay, that's true. That's the truth, okay? That's the truth. So that's the line, that fine line is I can talk about things that are true. If you are sleeping with the landscaper and you are sleeping with that person and you get upset, guess what?
Oh, gee, Kevin.
This is like the
world that you live in.
This is real.
Yeah.
This is real. It's based on truth, If you're a criminal, I have a right to call you a criminal. You took my reserve account, and guess what you did with the reserve account? You took care of your own building. You took care of your building first, and you didn't care about anybody else but you did self-dealing. You didn't look out for the best interest association. You looked out for yourself first. Whoa, wait a minute. Reputational damage. Yeah, reputational damage, but guess what? It's true. Okay, it's true. You are a crook. Yeah, truth is there's a fine line. If it's true and it caused damage, it's truth is it. So, we're going to talk a little bit in a while about how do you protect yourself. Well, one is truth. You got to live the truth.
I want to get to a couple things first. First, reputational damage. Let's talk about who you are as a person. How is your reputation damaged? Do you have to be a public figure, a leader in the community, the coach of the local softball team or a Boy Scout troop? Do you have to have some standing in the community? Or can you be, an introvert, a recluse who works at home? Maybe you write books for a living. You just don't have much. How is reputational damage measured?
Okay, and that's a good question because, again, normally you think about a board member has all the power and he's the one that's being sued. But you're not. You have people who live in this community association who don't like the landscaper, who don't like the contractors, okay, who don't like the person who maybe have a security guard, don't like the next door neighbor. All these people need to be protected. And, you have neighbor versus neighbor disputes. You have one neighbor don't like the other neighbor because he's African-American or Asian or homosexual, whatever it is. All those things, it happens to everybody. There's no line where anybody is more entitled to not. Now, the board of directors, they could be damaged more than somebody, but not necessarily so. Robert, if you go into an association and all of a sudden they say that, you're a horrible reserve study specialist and you have all the documentation and you're professional and everything, it harms you. It harms your reputation. It harms your name. And you're looking for damages. You're looking for damages because you were harmed, and they have no right to say that just because you walked in and because you charged, money and they should have got it for free. So it's really, really complicated because everybody can be impacted in an association. I don't like my landscaper because I'm working at 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm looking out my window and he's walking by this can of soda that's been sitting by that tree for a week now because I planted it there, waited for him to take it out. He didn't take it out. Time for him to go. Contractors, you spent way too much money on a contractor. I know you're getting kickbacks. I know you're getting kickbacks. I know the roofer's getting kickbacks. So I'm suing both of them for getting kickbacks.
Gee, maybe we should have been attorneys. That's why my head is spinning now. And I'm thinking times that people have said that, well, we blew a reserve study. And the most recent one was last week when someone was frankly disappointed about how much time we spent on site. Well, they failed to realize that we spent a significant amount of time before we met the association manager, measuring the buildings, doing all that time, gathering our information. And so the manager's accusation that we were just there for a short period of time, we were there for a short period of time meeting them, but we were there for hours prior. It was a truthful claim that we were only there 45 minutes with the manager, but it was untruthful that we did a lousy job. Mostly I just swallow on that and I just speak to the management company owner and let them know it's all good. We have the measurements. I guess maybe I've developed a thick skin. Maybe that's what we're talking about here.
Well, no, this is a difference though.
Okay.
That's why slander and libel is so different. Somebody can slander you like that and you go, look, I'm not worried about it because it's not going to hurt me. Okay. But all of a sudden that somebody puts that on Facebook or put that in one of the thousands of HOA sites out there. And all of a sudden it starts to hurt you and your reputation. Like what happened to Fox News, with the whole scandal they had with that Dominion voting machine.
Right, the election. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Dominion voting that they said that they were doing what they've done. And all of a sudden Fox News got sued for hundreds of millions of dollars because they kept, and that's the problem. It's not a matter of once you start and it goes down this rabbit hole and all of a sudden now your reputation's been damaged and now you've lost all your clientele, So it's bigger. It's big for us as professionals in our own business, but in the community association becomes a problem too, because now all of a sudden my next door neighbor, everybody believes that I'm a criminal because they say I'm embezzled the reserve study, or I'm sleeping around. Everybody's talking about it. And I got pain and suffering, emotional damages, punitive damages. I want punitive damage because that person did this viciously. Elections. This thing happens all the time in elections. Can you imagine the elections that they have in these board member elections where, you're both running for the board. Okay. Now all of a sudden, what makes a difference? Guess what? This guy is not fit to be a board member because he's done. And all he starts naming all the things he's done. And all of a sudden there's damages there. There's libel, slander, defamation. These are the damages that's going to come into play in elections. It happens. Okay, where does it happen at? Online. Because you have Facebook, it happens online, it happens on elections, it happens by the pool, These are the things that happen, and we don't understand, or we don't care enough about each other the way we used to care about each other, to just listen and go, wow, I didn't know you thought this way about me. Maybe I need to change. Maybe I am being a little bit more rougher than I need to be. Maybe I need to take a step back and, just listen a little bit more and not to react all the time, because that's what we do. At the bottom line is we hear something, we react. If I'm at the pool and all of a sudden I'm hearing that, guess what? I heard that you're not taking your trash cans out at night, or you're leaving your basketball court out, or you're shooting baskets 2:00 in the morning. I get, oh, wow, I didn't mean to. I stopped. Or I can get that anger comes in, and I want to do battle.
Yeah. I keep coming back to civility, compassion, community, things like that. The kind of the stories you've been telling is combative. And so there's a lot of this going on. What do board members need to do? I know being a board member is already hard. So now we're talking about not the skills of being a board member, the leading, the running a board meeting, make sure the minutes are good, make sure the budget is in place. We're talking about the personal skills, having enough of a thick skin, having poise. What's it take for a board member to stay ahead of this and minimize their exposure?
We used the word earlier, and you used a bunch of words, and we left out kindness. Kindness is the easiest thing to be. It's the easiest thing for me to be kind to one another. Kindness means I just want somebody to be well. I just want somebody to be okay. By being kind, all of a sudden, you're not hurt, even though you are being hammered, because they believe you have the right to pass assessments or you have the right to tell them what pool hours, everything. If you take a step back, and talk to that person and explain to them, take a couple seconds, couple minutes, and understand that you're in the heat of the moment there, try to control yourself. Just take a couple minutes, take a deep breath. And honesty, you have to be honest with your interaction with them. As long as you're honest, you have evidence that what you're saying is true. If you're talking to somebody and saying, listen, I'm concerned about the budget right now. I'm concerned about the money that's being spent. I don't want to accuse you of embezzling money, but there may be some embezzlement here. See, the difference between using may be some embezzlement versus I know you're embezzling. That's the word. I mean, this to use a different language. There may be some things here that I'm concerned of. There may be some situations there there's some serious issues. There may be kickbacks involved. I ain't accusing you, but there may be something. Can we look into it? Now I'm using a different kind of language that's more, it's not as combative, but it is still being critical. Without being critical, without being combative. So it's the language that we're using, and we always talk about how communication is important. Using non-confrontational communication is really important. It really is important.
Okay, so I'm talking about, let's talk about a board meeting that's going south.
Yeah.
Where you have, let's say the person at the beginning of the question at the beginning, who was it? Janet from Oakland, saying we have a troublemaker homeowner. And let's say that troublemaker homeowner is in a board meeting and they're causing a stink and blaming the board of all this kind of stuff. So go through the board meeting. Let's say the board does the right thing and says, thank you, Janet. Janet's the board member. Thank you, troubled homeowner. You've had your 3 minutes of time to explain things. They go through and they finish the board meeting. Is it possible that they could get one person from the board just to speak to this person, say, hey, a different person, a softer person, a mediator board member who's not involved, and just say, hey, I hear your concerns. What can we do to help you learn? Is there some of these social skills that can start to soften the problem?
That's perfect. That is one of the answers I always say. Pull that person aside, explain to them the rules, explain what's going on and how we can work together to solve it. And this is one of my suggestions, and my wife does like it a lot. Ask them to be part of the board. Ask them to be part of a group. Ask them to be part of a committee. Ask them to join it. My wife said, no, keep the guy out of there. If you want anything to do with him, no. Get them involved in the association. Get them involved. And as you get involved, you can lower the temperature. The goal is to lower the temperature with those people because you can't control them. But by not adding to it, it can make a big difference. It really can make a big difference.
Yeah. And I think there's a humanity there where, let's say that person has a bad day, or let's say that person has a bad year. They lost their spouse, their niece just got leukemia. There's a lot of reasons for us to have bad days or bad seasons of our life. And that could be an opportunity to engage that person, soften that person, find out that they're a mystery writer, and say, hey, we'd love to have you see if there's some mysteries you can unwind here at the association. We change management companies. We're trying to put the pieces together, and we would love your help. Find out then just, is it perhaps that simple?
It is, because people want to belong. People who are outcasts, people who are yelling, screaming, they want attention. They want to belong. And by inviting them in, and saying, will you be part of us? We need you. We like your energy. We like the things you're saying, and we want to be better. You want to help us to be better. We need you. People don't really want to be outsiders. They don't want to. They think they're outsiders. They believe they're treated as outsiders. So that's why they're outsiders. But by bringing them in and having them belong and having them feel like they are part of this community, guess what? It solves a lot of these problems.
I love that.
My reputation is not being damaged, okay, if I feel like I belong. Because I'm not being harmed. There's no harm. If I criticize you, Robert, you know that we're friends, that we get along, and you'll take my criticism, and you may not like it, but you say, well, Kevin, I know he doesn't mean well. He means well. And I don't agree with what he just said about
Put your darn microphone on the left side of your face, Robert. It's about time.
But that's when you hit the nail on the head with those kind of things. That's it.
Well, I love the idea of community, the idea of embracing people and inviting them to belong. I think there's a lot of great future and hope in front of the community association industry, focusing on building communities where you're breaking down those barriers. There's a smile in the hallway, all those kinds of things. Well, we are near the end of our time here, so we need to close. I want to thank you, Kevin. It's always great talking with you. This was a fun one.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts to add as we finish this episode?
I think that if we make an effort, we can stop a lot of these things that's happening. But we, as board members or people who live or listening to this thing, have to we have to be intentional about it. We have to make it a plan to say, this is what we're going to do. And you know what? One thing I didn't even say, adapt a code of conduct. They said, this is how our behavior is going to be, and make sure you have an anti-discrimination policy, because, we say that, but have a code of conduct. This is a behavior. This is our behavior we're going to have in our community. So you always can bring back the behavior, Come on, we don't, we all signed this agreement saying that our behavior is going to be A, B, and C. These things we're going to be doing for each other. So I think those are the kind of things we have a choice. We have a choice in the community to not be dragged into these $1 million claims. All we have to do is be kind to one another. Simple as
kind, guide the community forward, build a community. Yeah, I like that. There's so many things. We could talk about code of conduct. We could talk about following your principles. We could have a vision and a mission statement, who we are as an association. A lot of great things here. And I think they all dovetail together. We hope you learned some HOA insights from our discussion today that helps you bring common sense to your common areas. We look forward to another great episode next week.
You've been listening to HOA Insights, common sense for common areas. You can listen to the show on our podcast website, hoainsights.org, or subscribe on any of the most popular podcast platforms. You can also watch the show on our YouTube channel. Check the show notes for helpful links. If you like the show and want to support the work we do, you can do so in a number of ways. The most important thing you can do is to engage in the conversation. Email your questions or voice memos to podcast@reservestudy.com or leave us a voicemail at 805-203-3130. If you gain any insights from the show, please do us a huge favor by sharing the show with other board members you know. You can also support us by supporting the brands that sponsor this program. Please remember that the views and opinions expressed by the podcast do not constitute legal advice. You'll want to consult your own legal counsel before making any important decisions. Finally, this podcast was expertly mixed and mastered by Stokelight Video and Marketing. With Stokelight on your team, you'll reach more customers with marketing expertise that inspires action. See the show notes to connect with Stokelight.